Steady, easy does it. It's a dashboard I'm not familiar with. In the years that we've been doing the show, I'm surprised it's taken this long to do an episode in a garage.
Yeah.
Dave would love it in here. There's plenty more power tools he can play with. You weren't there. You were there in the episode a few weeks ago where he shot a nail gun into the seat.
Really?
Well, you know, it's classic Dave.
It
wasn't loaded. It wasn't loaded, honey.
If Dave was in the garage, he'd just be like, Dave, come on, get back in the car, stop playing with the tools.
Stop playing with that chainsaw. It's really fucking up the audio. Well, I'm really glad that this actually happened because when we reviewed Holmes and Watson and Vice the other day, we were like, I think we might be back. I don't know. We might have to wait until we get back to Springfield to see whatever comes out. But it turns out there was a couple of things on Netflix that have been like trending hard the last few days. Sometimes I get around to seeing what pops up on Netflix. Other times I simply just don't have time. But I guess in this instance, when it's a couple of things that are like trending pretty hard to where it's like most people I follow are posting up memes and references and shit about it, I'm like, okay, I better actually take a little bit of time to watch a few of these.
Well, luckily we have time on our hands.
We do. We have plenty of time on our hands.
We have plenty of time.
Yeah. We might as well have saved this for our multi-hour train ride to New Orleans in a few days. So we talking about Bird Box first?
Yeah. I've been seeing so many people raving about this movie. Facebook, there's like memes and like also there's...
Quite a bit.
There's a lot of people like writing statuses like, oh my god, so good. And
think pieces.
Hot takes on this movie.
Yeah. On if you don't know what Bird Box is, it is based on a novel, and the book I believe was written before a couple of other things that you've probably seen referenced a lot when this movie has been reviewed. So the book was written before some movies that I'm sure we'll mention in this review, but given this is a movie and we're watching it now, it's like it's hard not to think about a few other things when you're watching a film like this, be it, you know, good or bad in terms of this movie. But this is a film with Sandra Bullock in which something happens to where it's like this alien invasion where what they're doing is if you look at them, if you look at them, they end up getting inside your head, and you might see something that has to do with your own life that might manipulate you in some way, shape, or form, but you also may commit suicide. In fact, more often than not, you're going to commit suicide when you look at this. But there is like a group of crazy people that have like been studied and tested to look at these aliens that now treat it as if it's kind of this cult. Like they're trying to coax, manipulate different people into joining them, into looking into the light and worshiping these aliens and the goodness that they're bringing people and all of this. So...
I don't think they're aliens.
Are they not aliens?
I don't know what they really are, but I remember Rel, the guy that plays Rel.
Yeah, that's his name.
Oh, that's
Lil
his name.
Rel.
He was saying, like, they're like demons. It's kind of like, I could be totally off.
It could be the Babadook. Let's just say
something
that
like
it's
some
the Babadook.
sort of like demons that are coming, like...
I think it might possibly be the ghost from Lights Out.
It's like some sort of entity or something, like some sort of like apocalypse, I think is what it was. I don't know.
There is actually like really like standout moments in this film when shit actually starts to go down in this and things are just blowing up behind Sandra Bullock, and there's a car, they're driving through this pandemonium with like the hospital exploding in the background, people just losing their shit, running through the streets, people are killing themselves. The music that is going along with that too really does set the mood. It is actually kind of a terrifying moment in the film. And there are a few moments in the movie that are like that are showing this crazy amount of chaos going on, and we're following this select group of people throughout all of this, and you kind of don't really know necessarily who to trust throughout a lot of it, like who's gonna snap, who's not. And
it's like one of those like those movies where it's kind of like a group of people. Some people, one person goes crazy and snaps, and then there's some...
like Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah. So
guess which character John Malkovich is.
I know. So it does that for like at least a good half of the movie.
Well over half of the movie, about 3/4 of this movie. And also the acting is really solid in this. Sandra Bullock is great. She is great in the film, and when it opens, when she's talking to these two kids and she's given them this pretty powerful talk about how they need to survive and they need to do exactly what she's saying. It's a really great piece of acting, and I did like that moment there in the movie where she is drilling it into these kids' heads that they need to do exactly what she's saying.
Whatever they need to do to survive. Even if she's hurt, she's like, you just keep going. Don't take off your blindfold, just keep going. Don't try and help me, just keep going. You need to survive. And
it kind of touches a little bit on what kind of, on parenting in a situation like this, because she's with, I'm pretty sure it's the guy from Moonlight, the dude, and he's kind of giving these two kids like sort of false hope in a way, like the idea of maybe in the future everything will be fine, like the idea of heaven basically, but on Earth, like everything might be fine, it might go back to normal.
Give them a happy place, and she's kind of more the disciplinarian, like, don't give them false hope, like, you're gonna have them, like, they're gonna end up going outside and like playing with the birds and stuff, that you're in the
climbing trees,
and they're gonna do that.
You're on your way to Eden.
So
no, so there are interesting moments like that where it is like kind of this debate on sort of what type of parent would you be in a situation like this. So there is some interesting things about the movie. There are things about it that it does handle well, but it's a movie that is not very good.
It does one of your, for this movie especially, it does one of those things you really don't like, where it's like, it does a scene, and it's a really powerful scene, which there's nothing wrong with that, but then it does
in the opening scene,
and then it'll say 5 years earlier, and then
that's a cliche. I really don't. That's a trope that I really don't like.
Especially
but it doesn't. But when it's happened in other movies, it's not like that's something that makes or breaks a movie for me. That I love John Wick. That happens in John Wick. Like a movie, I can still love a movie even if something like that happens. And I've even seen movies do it well. Then there's other times where they do it really for no stylistic purpose, just to get out some intense scene to open the movie with, because God forbid an audience have to wait.
I know.
Like fucking Peppermint, or I really loved Alpha, and Alpha even did that shit.
Yeah, it did it well though.
I did not think it did it well.
You didn't think
Alpha? No, I loved that movie, but I hated how that movie opened with.
I liked it. It was intense, and it was like, cool.
It would have been a lot more powerful if I didn't know that was going to happen 20 minutes into the movie.
Yeah, it didn't bother me, but that's.
But again, it didn't break the movie for me.
Yeah.
I really like the fact that we get to spoof that in the sequel to the Snob movie. Basically, the sequel to the Snob movie is me flat out doing all of the cliches we don't like in movies. Anyway, here's what bugs me about this with this movie, and it's not the only thing I dislike about this film, but yeah, the movie opens up with Sandra Bullock and the two kids after this 5 years after this post-apocalyptic event has happened, and then it frequently cuts back to them, like in this.
It's like 24 hours on river.
Yeah, they're on river
hours.
To go to, possibly maybe there's this safe haven that they're going to. And the movie frequently cuts back to that, while for 75% of it, starting out before this event has happened, and then them and a group of people, including John Malkovich and Lil Rel and a few other people who are in this house and trying to survive. Sandra Bullock's pregnant. Another girl is pregnant. There's a bunch of different characters in there, and yeah, they're all fighting with each other, and there is a really good scene where they have to use GPS in order to drive through the streets to paint, because they can't open their eyes when they're outside.
Yeah, so they paint the windows. And
there are really good scenes sprinkled throughout this movie, but because it starts out with this opening scene with her and the two kids 5 years later, even cutting back to it so a few different times in the movie, it's a movie that for no reason, for absolutely no logical reason, keeps spoiling itself
I
throughout
know.
the whole film.
So you're just like, I don't really care because I just know everyone that she's with is going to die.
Everyone she's with is going to die. I know what's good. Let me guess who the other kid is. Probably the kid of this other pregnant woman on there.
Yeah.
Something's going to happen to her to where Sandra Bullock ends up with these two kids. And even Sandra Bullock being this stern parent between the two of them to where she doesn't even give them names. She just calls them boy and girl. I'm sitting there like, I understand what you're trying to do here. But the fact that you're even calling them boy and girl, you have given them names.
Yeah.
Okay, so whatever. And
They kind of established that in the beginning that she's not very maternal.
yeah.
That's kind of her struggle, I guess. One of the struggles she goes through, like learning how to be more
I
of a
couldn't.
parent, I guess.
It wasn't scary enough to carry me
It was
through
boring.
how predictable this film is. This movie, for no reason, this movie just shoots itself in the foot and just tells me everything that's going to happen. I don't care about this situation. I already know the only three people who survive are going to be Sandra Bullock and the two kids. Even when it kind of catches up to that moment where it's her and her love interest and the two kids, I already know he's gonna die.
He
not gonna make.
sacrifices himself for no fucking reason.
He is the fifth character in this film to sacrifice themselves for no reason, because this movie is full of, beyond how this is clumsily structured, there are like several characters in this movie who die for no reason. Like whether it's Little Rel pushing a guy, sacrificing himself by pushing this guy out, when this guy who is threatening him is standing next to a dude with a shotgun who could blow his head off or knock him the fuck out, or even dude towards the end who goes outside to confront some people when he could have done all of this just from inside out the fucking window.
Yeah.
There's probably five other I love John Malkovich being trapped in the garage.
With like a glass door, kind of.
A glass door that goes inside that he could have used any tool in there to break himself in. Bah.
John Malkovich was really good, though.
He's really good, and
He's being John Malkovich.
Yeah, and
he's one of those actors that's like, he's kind of like a Jeff Goldblum or like Christopher Walken, where it's like, I just like them because they're in it, and they're just doing their thing.
This movie, and also with his character, he is supposed to be like the antagonist in this group, but he's the one who's right all the time.
He does do one asshole thing where they go to the supermarket to get all their supplies and stuff, and so he's like, why don't we just stay here? Fuck all those other people that stayed at the house. Why don't we just stay here? That's kind of a dick move. But
well,
I
sort of get it for a couple reasons. One, he was drunk, and two, he was drunk because he just lost his wife.
That's true.
All right, like, I'll give that to him. Like, maybe I sort of understand the reasoning which led him to that point. And every time he says, like, or most of the time at least, when he says we shouldn't bring this person in, we shouldn't trust this person, he's usually right most of the time through this film.
One of the ways that all the people kind of die, which I don't feel like I'm spoiling anything because it already spoils.
The movie spoils
it spoils itself, so it's not really a big spoiler. But one of the girls, she lets in someone that's like knocking on the door, like, please help me, and we find out he's one of the crazy people, because I guess people that are mentally unstable can see these things without getting hurt or
we
killing
fudged some of the
themselves.
details on this. We apologize.
So I'm sure the book explains it more. So he comes in, he's like, oh, it's beautiful, everyone must see, and he like breaks all the windows so the light comes in and they can see outside the house, and so everyone basically dies.
Yeah, because there was a simultaneous birthing scene between the two pregnant people in the movie who just happened to give birth at the same fucking time. This is
my luck.
This is a stupid movie that doesn't realize how stupid it is.
I feel like it thinks it's really smart. Because that's why there's so many articles I've been, like, whenever I look up the movie, people are, like, I see articles that are, like, the true meaning of this movie, or what is it explained in, like, analysis, and I'm like, it's not that smart, at least, unless I'm not catching something.
It's acted well, it's shot well, it does have a couple of intense scenes in it, but it's sort of like
A Quiet Place mixed with The Happening.
This movie is the poor man's Quiet Place and the boring man's The Happening.
Yeah.
It's totally what this movie is.
There are even some scenes where it's kind of like the death scenes in The Happening, like where she gets the knife and kind of kind of like with the girl with her hair piece or something. She stabs her neck. Someone does that with scissors. I think someone jumps out a window and it kind of shows it. I was like, whoa, it's almost the same.
In the middle of like, say you have The Quiet Place here, this movie in the middle, and The Happening, objectively speaking, down here. But because this movie is just right there in the middle and really just mediocre, I'd rather watch those other two. Quiet Place, yeah, because it's a much better movie in this. The Happening, because it's really entertaining for reasons it's not really intending, but it's entertaining as shit. At least there's that. This is just kind of right there in the middle where it's like, I don't really need you in my life, honestly. Like,
it's like I could take it or leave it. I really don't feel like I would have missed out on anything if I missed the,
At least a dumb horror movie like Truth or Dare, which is way worse than this, but at least a movie like that is shot and presented in a way that it's like, okay, I think this movie really knows it's dumb. It's bad, yeah, but I think it's aware of how stupid it is. It's a terrible movie, and it's a worse movie than this. But this movie it's like Dreamcatcher, where it's like you are being really like ambitious here with a movie about ass slugs.
I've never seen it, but I would love to.
You would love it. It's so I kind of feel that way about this movie, where it's like this feels really, really pretentious. Like, this is a pretty dumb, with dumb characters, shit for brains editing, stupid mistakes throughout the whole fucking movie. I don't like this movie at all, and it's trying to trick me into thinking it's really smart.
Yeah, if you like it, whatever. You to each their own. But
certainly,
my sister fell asleep during this movie, and she was like, kind of opening her eyes every now and then, but she was pretty bored. She's kind of like me, where I fall asleep a lot, but she was asking, like, did I miss anything? Like,
no.
We were like, no, you're fine. You can miss this one.
But it is just on Netflix.
Yeah.
And if you treat it as that, like it's this, let's, put it in the category of like, a made-for-TV movie or something like that. Like, it is just on Netflix. It's not costing you anything to watch it aside from whatever you're paying on Netflix, which probably isn't fucking much. So as I was watching the movie, I'm like, all right, well, I mean, at least I'm not going out to the theater and paying full theater prices to go see this movie. There are some individual moments mixed in with really dumb shit, but there are individual moments that do work. There is something here to this. Like, it's a 2-hour and 4-minute movie, and you could easily lose like 34 minutes of this film.
Yeah, it was too long, too. And there's this one question I had, I won't say what it was, but there was this one question I had during the whole movie, and I was like, why aren't they explaining this? Why aren't they explaining this? And at the very end, that's when they explain it, and I was like, 5 years this went on, and not one single person asked that question.
Now it truly is the blind leading the blind.
If he kind of ruined what my question was during the whole movie.
It's all right.
Well, I didn't want to spoil it. So.
Nah. Yeah, I mean, it's not I think it's a poorly edited film in terms of how the story is structured. I think that really fucking shoots this movie in the foot.
Yeah.
But it is a well shot film, and there are moments where it is suspenseful, and Sandra Bullock is a great actress, and she's great
really good in it.
She is great in this film. So there are it's not like I think this is a totally bad movie. I mean, there are some parts of it where it works. For the most part, I was just sitting there going like, this movie's not that good. Like, I mean, it's like right there in the middle, which somehow makes me more mad because I feel like it's really wasting my time.
Yeah. Yeah, we were like, hey, everyone's talking about this movie. Let's check it out. And yeah, I was like, we should have watched something else. Like
Hereditary, which is a way better and scarier movie than this.
Yeah, and it's shorter, I think, too, isn't it?
They're about the same length. Hereditary was a little over 2 hours long.
Oh, never mind.
So I, like I said, I mean, if you like this movie, fine. I'm not gonna take that away from you, of course.
Yeah, I get why. There has to be a reason why people like it, so why people are talking about it a lot. So
yeah, I mean, it there's enough about it that does make it serviceable to watch on Netflix or a streaming service. There is no, if I saw this in the theater, there's no way I would recommend seeing this movie in the theater.
No.
On a streaming service, just at home where you got a group sitting around, just as this, you know, movie, you could just pop it. Fine, you know, it's too long. It doesn't need to be 2 hours and 4 minutes long. If this movie lost like 34 minutes of it, and they did a serious re-edit on this fucking thing, I could actually really see this working.
Yeah, same.
Even with the footage that we just have in this 2 hour and 4 minute version, losing it, retooling some of it, I can 100% see this movie working so much goddamn better.
Yeah, same.
So that's my final thoughts on this, really.
Yeah, we're kind of on the same page.
I really didn't care for this. Yeah, we really are.
Yeah, because we were both kind of saying the same thing during the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, watch Quiet Place instead, Happening instead, Night of the Living Dead. I like that John Malkovich was like the asshole dad in Night of the Living Dead, only if that guy was right.
Right. Totally.
Oh, man. Okay, so we're going to talk about another movie here in a little bit, but I'm going to hit pause and, you know, click on another video and watch us talk about the Black Mirror movie. See you guys.
Bye.
Take care.